Hello there, everybody, and welcome to.
That was badass, bro. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed the intro. But yeah, this is the entertainment headquarters, and this is Into the Darkness, my segment on the channel where I talk all things horror. And I did a few weeks ago with another guest on this channel a franchise discussion on Friday the 13th, and I thought, you know what, I had so much of a blast doing that. I wanted to do it again with another franchise, but bring on a bigger panel of guests so I could talk on about an amazing franchise that we all know and love. And this time, the franchise we're all here to talk about is The Evil Dead.
Fuck yeah. One of the greatest of all time.
Absolutely. It's one of my all-time favourite horror franchises. But to talk about this, I brought on a panel, like I say, of amazing guests. From the last discussion, we have from Anthony Jordan's Movies and Gaming, Mr. Anthony. From my partner in crime, he's a regular on the channel. He's a good friend of mine. It's Mr. DJ Anubis.
Where? I don't see him. Where is he? God damn it.
Mr. Anubis.
And joining we are two badasses in their own right. From Metalomania, we have the Crypt.
Crypt!
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah. And finally, another horror enthusiast, Mr. Tony of the Dead.
Tony of the Dead.
Thank you.
My brother.
So, as we know, we're all horror freaks, yeah? We all love horror. We all love The Evil Dead. It's the first question I ask all the time, but I always start off with it. Can all of you remember the first time you seen the first ever Evil Dead film? We'll start with The Crypt.
I do, man. I don't know where I am age-wise in relation to most of you cats. I believe me and Anubis are pretty dead on with each other, but I'm of the VHS at the local VHS market, age group, man, where we went and we didn't even know what the fucking movie was. If it had horror on the cover of it, we were like, let's check it out. So just like many of us, we stumbled on this. We didn't know what the fuck it was, but it looked scary. It looked fucked up, and we rented it based on the VHS cover art. And a legend was born, man. It was definitely, that was one. Obviously, I mean, here we are talking about it this many years later. So a cult classic was born. The very first time I saw it, I knew this was something different. It was something crazy and cool. And I immediately fell in love with Bruce Campbell, a lifelong Bruce Campbell fan for that matter. So
yeah,
good shit.
Mr. Tony.
Yeah.
Probably watched it for the first time with my cousin. We used to watch movies when we were way too young, like The Exorcist and stuff. So I probably saw it then, very early on VHS era as well.
Fuck yeah.
I can't remember exactly where I was, but I know it was probably with him because I wasn't into horror as much as him back then. And so that's why I got to see a lot of like Sleepaway Camp was because of him as well. So yeah, I probably was with him.
Classic.
Anthony?
Okay, well, my history with the films is a little like out of order. Like my first exposure, I was in high because like my video stores never had any of these films on for rental, so I couldn't watch them on VHS.
Whoa.
So my first exposure, I was in high school and I saw the second half of Army of Darkness on Sci-Fi Channel. It wasn't until like I think 2008 I was at Walmart and I wish I still had the DVDs, but they had Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness on DVD. I grabbed them and went home and immediately marathoned all three.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, and finally DJ Anubis.
So yeah, it's interesting because Crypt brought up about the whole thing about the 80s and VHS, and it's funny. Like Anthony, I saw them kind of out of order initially. So the first one I saw was Evil Dead 2.
Oh,
Now
no
the
shit.
funny thing is, I was thinking about this the other day. People have to understand, for you younger guys, like growing up, we were relying on newspapers, so you had black and white. So you
Yeah.
see the movie poster, it's not in color, but you still get creeped out by the cover of that film for Evil Dead 2. And then finally I did eventually go back to Evil Dead 1 once I saw that film. But yeah, I just needed to show this too because Neko got me this not too long ago.
Awesome.
Figurine of Ash.
She's a great wife, that
Ash.
Neko.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh no.
Oh no! Look, we
got
just
my hand. It's got my hand.
we
All
all
right, so
just
yeah, anyway.
collectively watched it go down in value right on the video.
Right.
Well, my first exposure to Evil Dead was similar to a lot of yours with VHS. I mentioned this, I think, when me and Anubis did our Conan the Barbarian review. Part of another segment. It's another segment I do called the Retro Classic Movie Show. And what I mentioned on there is we, not far from where I lived, had a video store called Zodiac Videos. And we used to walk around, and I used to, obviously, was younger, I used to go to the kids section, but obviously curiosity gets the better here, and I went over to the horror section. And I seen different VHS covers, and I was shit scared of half of them. But the one that always stood out was Evil Dead, and it was the fact that it was probably the Evil Dead 2 VHS cover with the skull and the eyes. And right next to it was another thing that terrified us, Rawhead Rex. I don't know if you've heard of that one, but it's like this thing popping out the ground. So them two I was gravitated to. And them two were probably my first two experiences when I got older with horror, was Rawhead Rex and Evil Dead 2. But anyway, let's crack on and let's talk about the Evil Dead. So I'll just start off with a little bit of information. The Evil Dead is an American comedy horror franchise created by Sam Raimi, consisting of 5 feature films and a television series. The series originally revolves around the Grinmore, the Necronomicon, Ex Mortis, I probably fucked the name up, an ancient, that's right, the Sumerian text that wreaks havoc upon a group of cabin inhabitants in a wooded area in Tennessee. And the first film came out in 1981, so I wasn't even born. I wasn't even a feces.
What?
You
weren't
youngin'.
Feces. Wait a minute. You weren't feces? You weren't shit yet?
You're swimming around in your dad's balls.
Yes, I should have said a fetus, not feces.
Feces, yeah. Oh my god. Were you a
shit,
feces fetus?
I can see where this conversation's going.
That was brilliant. That was brilliant. How old are you, man? What year were you born?
I've just turned 40, so I was born in 1983.
Yeah.
So 40, hung and proud. That's all I can say about that.
You're Scully is your age, yeah.
So since we're cracking on, let's talk them. This is a discussion on the franchise. It's one of my most loved horror franchises. It's a mixture of horror and comedy, and sometimes a little bit of action. Mostly horror, but action. So let's crack on, and we're going to talk about the first film. So what is your initial reaction with the very first film? We'll start off with Anthony.
The first film, I do think it deserves its classic, but it's definitely one of those you could tell it was a experimental film, and it's the one thing I appreciate most about it, that you guys were figuring out the stuff as you do it. And if you look carefully, like there's some scenes where Bruce Campbell looks a little older than others. They were filming this movie piecemeal as they had the money, and I just do greatly appreciate it for that, as well as like this film is one I'd say out of all of them is the one I might most give the your mileage may vary, because like the incessant laughing of the Deadites, it's one thing that could either enhance the eerie atmosphere or wear a little thin with you. But overall, I think it's an important film in 80s horror.
The Crypt.
I love the lure of the first movie. I mean, basically, let's be honest. 2 is a retelling of 1 and just a little bit better with a little bit more money. But
That's
I love
what
the
I
lure
think.
of what the lure of 1 is what makes 1 so special. You know, it started where Sam Raimi had made a short film that was originally called Within the Woods, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
right? I believe it
Yep.
was Within the Woods.
Yeah.
And that was like making its way through like little kind of underground parties, and somehow it got in front of Stephen King. Matter of fact, I think at Cannes, it got in front of Stephen King at the Cannes Film Festival. And from that point, Stephen King became a fan of the movie, and that really helped propel it. And that, and like you say, man, the whole story of it, everybody got hurt on the film, while they were making the first movie. There's hundreds of stories of them hurting themselves because they had no fucking idea what they were doing. So they would try this and try that. And Sam Raimi legendarily was trying to keep everybody a little bit pissed off on the set because he thought it played into the horror angle of it, which I think is pretty funny. And, they stayed in that cabin. There was like between the actors and everybody, was like 15 people that stayed in that little cabin for weeks. So, and many of them wouldn't even take showers because it was so fucking cold. You would freeze your ass off if you were wet, so it sounds like it was a nightmare of a set, and it's funny to think that that little tiny budget and that little nightmare set would turn into this fucking brilliant goddamn masterpiece.
Well, the actual budget for the film was actually 375,000.
Crazy.
In the box office, it made 2.7 million.
That's a little bit of profit. Just a little, a little bit.
Yeah, so that's just and I think if I'm not rightly, when it first was when it did get its budget and greenlit like the full on film, I don't think studio executives had much faith in it.
No, yeah,
and
a lot of them said so right to them, even
and that you can even tell because of the budget, the special effects for it aren't fantastic, but it's the story overall and Bruce Campbell that brought the film to life.
His physical acting is fantastic. It definitely it's an early, in my opinion, it's an early prototype for like the Jim Carrey stuff that would come later. He was very much a physical comedy, presence on film.
Yeah,
but I feel like a lot of the stuff came across as funnier than intended because of his physical acting.
Definitely.
1000%, yeah.
So, Mr. Tony of the Dead, what's your initial reaction to the first film?
Well, I wouldn't say the first one's really a comedy at all. I think the first one's the only one that's really more just horror, straight up horror. He does say some funny lines in it, but like it's just kind of flirty-ish, But
it is the most horror of them for sure.
Yeah, definitely. The second one's like ridiculous, but like ridiculously, I wouldn't say ridiculously funny, but like they went in more to the horror comedy aspect of it. But I thought the first one, like, it definitely was the scariest of them all too for me, especially and like, what's the word? Curling my toes, like where she gets stabbed in the ankle with the pencil, and then like it's like to this day I'm like, oh, looking at it because it looks so friggin' real. And then like you have like the woods, what they do to the girl and everything. I won't say the word, but like it's like they really went above. And I remember reading Bruce Campbell's book, and it's coming back to me. Like I said, I can't remember everything about the set, but I remember there's something about being a hill that was hard to get up and down it, and they were stuck down there for a while or something.
Yeah, and I think that played into the claustrophobic element. Is that when they were on the set, if the weather, like you mentioned, it was fucking freezing cold, and they were like in the middle of the woods freezing, and they even felt worse when the cast and that as well. They had difficulty getting in and off the set because of the muddiness of the weather.
Yeah. I even like the stop motion in it because I'm a stop motion guy, and I think it just it's amazing how like it just gets more and more gross. You think it's over, and then like it just gets more and more gross. Like yeah, I the first one really like sticks with me. I'm probably more of a part 2 fan, like my favorite, but that's not much difference between the first and the second one.
Yeah.
In fact, the first time I ever heard about anything of the Evil Dead was in my video store in my small town. There was a poster on the wall of Army of Darkness, and I just remember seeing like the little hymns on his feet with the fork and that, and I'm like, what is this movie? And like I never watched it, but then later on I saw Evil Dead, and I'm like, oh, that's the same thing, because you gotta remember too, back then we didn't have the internet. Like I didn't understand why the second one at the time was like the first one. I'm like, why'd they do that? What happened? And then nowadays you know why, but like I didn't know what happened, why back then.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's always gotta have a place in my heart.
Anubis.
Classic.
Yeah, so as Crypt said, this was based off a 30-minute movie called Within the Woods that came out in 1978, and actually Campbell was a part of that film too. Believe it or not, the budget for that one was like $1,600. So the fact they were to get that, and the thing is, Raimi was able to convince a certain theater to run this side by side with Rocky Horror Picture Show at the time, which was kind of impressive at the time. But as far as Evil Dead, I think it's always a product of when you've seen something. I know that kind of off of this topic, but when Neko showed me the Goonies for the first time more recently, it just didn't translate to me. A lot of people grew up with the Goonies. They love that film. I'm not one of them. It didn't work with me at a later stage. Even though I saw Evil Dead shortly after Evil Dead 2, I felt that Evil Dead was far inferior to what Evil Dead 2 was doing. And funny enough, as Tony was pointing out, even though Evil Dead is supposed to be taken more seriously, I laugh at it, but it's not an intentional laugh. It's just because it's so corny. So people give me a lot of hate because I actually love 2013 far more than this one. And it's, again, it's trying to go with the serious tones, but it doesn't translate well. And I give Raimi a lot of credit because he worked with what he had at the time. I'm sure anybody that went in that theater was terrified, because that's at that time that shit was pushing gore and everything else.
Fuck yeah.
So we'll have
blood.
Yeah, so we'll have things like this in the film.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
I said they definitely used a lot of blood.
So that you stuff, and then you have like things like this in the film where she's getting fucked up, and I just think the practical effects in this was really well done for it.
Wasn't she Bruce Campbell's girlfriend at the time?
Probably.
That girl right there, I believe she was Bruce Campbell's girlfriend at the time. Yeah.
I heard they had a big problem with the contacts or whatever that they put in the eyes because it was like a shell or something. Like, they can only keep them in for so long.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that shit anyway. I've seen like those throughout movies. I'm like, man, my eyes are too sensitive as it is.
Yeah.
Right.
I wear contact lenses from time to time, and even just the regular ones are hard to get in. But you see on some film sets where they need to cover the entire weight of the eye, and they have to put like a full eye cap lens in. Yeah. And I struggle just to put the regular ones to cover my eyes just to help us see. So hats off to them when they've got to put on the full eye, the full eye cap lens in. It must be horrendous.
You couldn't maybe.
What's that?
So, like this, I can't remember if this is the first film or the second film, but I love the effects in this. I think this looks brilliant.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like that was just I think that's puppetmation or something. I don't think it was what you call it, makeup and all that. That looks like it was proper puppetmation that they used in that scene. But like you say, the visuals, I think, for its time and for the budget he had, he did the best he could. And then like the rest of you, I believe because the first one went well and he had a higher budget, I think in a way, even though it's not classed as one, I feel it's like the second movie was like a soft reboot to the first film. Like in terms of, yes, it continues the plot, but it changed a few things, and this is Evil Dead 2. So we know about the first film. You know, the story is about these people that go to the woods. They obviously get the Necronomicon, they open it, they read it, and the next thing you know, hell breaks loose and things start going awry, and hell, you know, people are, you know, things are happening in the woods with the ladies, and then everyone in the cabin starting to, you know, get possessed slowly because of the magic and the demonness of everything. And then obviously the first one ends, and then the second one's a continuation where they're still in the cabin. Well, so what's your opinions of the second film this in the series? We'll start with Tony of the Dead.
Oh, like I said, this one was is definitely my favorite. I like I like horror comedy, but like it depends. Sometimes I just want straight up horror, but this one like is so funny and, you know, pretty scary because I mean you're trapped in the middle of the woods and you know these things are after you and I also love that how it ends, like it starts like, you know, basically a recap and then like the whole thing with him coming at his face and then like you see it going and take him through the woods. I love that it picks right up from there. And Bruce Campbell, in my opinion, is the coolest looking Deadite of all of them. I think he looks badass. And of course, we all know that love conquers evil. And yeah, it's just, it has such good memorable moments. I still to this day will put on the whole scene with them all, with everything in the cabin laughing. I'll put that on just to like laugh at, you know, because it's so funny. And it's and then of course Ted Raimi in the cellar as the mother is fantastic.
Henrietta.
Like, Henrietta, it's so like everything in this movie is just so good. Then and of course there's likable characters too, which always helps too. But yeah, I this one's definitely my favorite. Like I said, it's close to the first one, but I'd say if I was going to put one of them in, I'd probably put in the second one first to watch.
Well, I've just read this little bit of information. So what it says on here, it says with Evil Dead 2, it says here,
what does it say?
It says the second installment in the Evil Dead film series is considered both a remake and a sequel or a requel.
Requel, yeah.
In 1981, it stars Bruce Campbell as Ash Williams, who vacations with his girlfriend to a remote cabin in the woods. He discovers an audio tape of reincantations from a book of ancient texts, and when the recording is played, it unleashes a number of demons and possesses and torments him, which is basically the plot of the second movie. So that's what I thought. I think, this is just my opinion, I think the first one did all right, but in my mind, Sam Raimi, when he did the first one, he was happy with it. He got his chance in Hollywood. He had the budget, but I think he basically tried to tweak the things that he didn't like that he did in the first one to make the second one. Because the plot, like you say, there's not much difference in the plot. They're both based in the woods. It's a continuation from the first one, but really it's the exact same film, but they did the effects better and were able to showcase more when it comes to the possessions and the demonic side. So the Crypt, what's your opinion of the second film?
It's the only time I know of an actual straight up requel. You know what I mean? I can't think of I tried to find another example of that. Can you guys enlighten me? Because I can't think of another. straight up requel, as it were, which is exactly what it is. But of course, 2 is a better telling of 1. You know, it's a far superior film in many ways. Many of us who love the first one, it's definitely for the nostalgia reason more than it is for the, you know, the actual film. This one's clearly a better job. You know, it's a bigger budget and all that stuff. But there's many things to love about the second one. I love how they had like the nod, like they have, you can see there's a Freddy Krueger glove hidden in there. You know what I mean? A lot of those directors around that time would do those little, you know, Easter eggs where they would give little nods to each other. Like there's a Jaws poster in this one, and there's a, you know what I mean?
So the Hills Have Eyes poster in that.
Exactly. Right. Which is cool shit. I love that kind of shit. You know what I mean? So
it's like a respect factor to other horror directors' work in a way.
It kind of became a back and forth thing between Sam Raimi and Wes Craven.
Right. For a long time, even, right? It goes on for quite a while where they're doing that kind of kicking it back and forth thing, which is cool. And it is a cool mutual respect thing. Some people might not know Evil Dead 2 was very much made possible with the help of Stephen King really pushing for it. You know, those guys became real good friends. Stephen King was a real big driving force in Hollywood and pushing for people to throw some money at this thing and get it done, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
What else? There was some weird notes I had taken that to like, I know one of the characters was based on Holly Hunter because Stan Raimi had a crush on Holly Hunter. So I think that's pretty funny. Part of it was shot in a junior high school. What was the other bit? Oh, one last thing though, the Ed Getley guy, the actor Ed Getley that from the movie who was the Professor Ed Getley. That dude went on, many might not realize, QVC fame, man. He's been ripping off our grandparents ever since he made this fucking movie, you guys. QVC fame, man, selling old beat up jewelry to our grandparents, man. So, you know, there you go.
I can't believe that's still on.
And also, one last thing though, apparently this movie did also have, at one point, they were being threatened with a rating of X for it. It was they had to do a lot of cuts to get rid of the X rating they were hanging on this film at one point.
It makes you wonder what it was because that movie is just gory.
I'd love to see that. Yes, I want to see that very badly.
An X rating for Evil Dead 2. Wow.
What the fuck was going on there? Yeah.
Fuck me. But anyway, Anubis.
Oh, and I forgot to mention also, I can't believe it. This entire arm is art from the Necronomicon, by the way, you guys. This is all Book of the Dead art on this entire sleeve. Yeah, you guys.
Nice.
So, yeah, fuck yeah. All right, I'm sorry, I had to throw that in there.
No, it's much appreciated. We had to talk about the Evil
related,
Dead. So, Anubis.
This movie changed my fucking life.
Fuck yeah.
I had seen a lot of stuff before this point. I was pretty young for most of it, but this, when I finally got to it and watched it, I was like terrified at first, and then we start getting into where the hand comes into play, and I'm like, oh my god, this is the funniest fucking shit ever.
What a brilliant thing.
This is where Bruce Campbell just became a legend because he owns this movie, dude. He's for most of this movie, he's doing his own thing for most of it. And it's kind of hard for one guy or one actor to sit there and carry a movie like this because he's having to do everything himself. He's like smashing dishes on his head, you know, all this other crazy crap. And then like the gore effects, like when he shoots the hand with the shotgun in the wall and he's like, and all of a sudden that blood right at him.
I'll be right back. You keep talking. I'm going to let the cat out the room because it's doing me fucking head in.
All right. So you have all that. Yeah, what's the little part there where he's putting the bucket over the hand and he puts the book on top? It says a farewell to arms.
Yeah, brilliant.
And then, of course, you know, it's going to sound bad, but I kind of wish I was a tree in this film because of Cassie Wesley. Bobby Joe! Bobby Joe!
Bobby Joe.
Yeah. She was a sexy little thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't mind spitting either.
Oh my god.
A lot of the other cool effects too. You had the little skull knife thing that he was using at the end.
The Kandarian dagger.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Such a great little cool thing. If I was been bruised or something, I would have snagged that off set. That's mine. You know, if you're gonna take home tokens of this stuff, so yeah, man. I mean, this movie like totally changed the way movies for me. It became an instant classic for me, and that's why like when I went back and watched Evil Dead, it just didn't really live up to this film because and it's unfair in some ways because the budgets are different and everything else. But the reality is, Evil Dead 2 was the first one I saw, and it just was so dynamic in the way it was presented. I know Tony pointed to Bruce when he's being possessed and he's going through the trees and he's got this shit going on, and it's just so well done and well paced. And even at the end, like you kind of knew when he finally gets to the end there, when he's in a different time, you know, the nights and everything. So that sets up the next film, of course. So yeah, definitely a game changer.
That was another thing, like too, you said about him smashing the plates and everything. He like still did that, like in that Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yep.
When he's like, he's punching himself in the face. Like he, as big of a star as he is, he's not afraid of making himself, you know, look like an ass, like punching himself and shit.
He
You know,
loves that shit.
I know.
He's great at it too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like I think Evil Dead, in my opinion, Evil Dead 2, this was what Sam Raimi, his intention was for the very first one. And I think that's why he requilled this. I think if you could have the same amount of money and maybe, you know, was able to have, you know, probably more faith at the time from the studio, he might have been able to do things better with the first one. I do think the first one is hopefully what he wanted it to be, but the fact that the sequel is very much, or the requel as it's known as, was done in a way that it looks very similar to the first one. I think it's the true interpretation of what he wanted Evil Dead to be when he set out. Which leads where, obviously, you've mentioned it, Anubis. You know, we had the second one, and after the second one, it leads us to my favourite of this.
Well, hold on. You didn't let Anthony talk about it
yet. I thought Anthony did.
I don't think we heard him.
Anthony, sorry, your opinion of Evil Dead 2. I thought I had
the other Tony.
Well, this is the one. It's like, for starters, this is the one I'll say if someone's never seen the Evil Dead films before, I would recommend this one first, then Army of Darkness, then go back and watch the original because you really don't need it for the story. And I just think this is overall a more watchable movie, even though the first one does kind of have that almost TCM documentary feel to it. This just plays better. I do give it bonus points too because I live in North Carolina, and this film, parts of it were shot in North Carolina as on the same piece of property as The Color Purple. Like it's around an hour and a half drive from where I live, but I do love how much you see Sam Raimi's technique improve in this. It strikes the right blend of horror comedy. It knows even just how long to have one man hold the picture down before you have to introduce other characters. And I like how like some of the gags were born from just stuff that was mentioned, like the scene with the walls bleeding. I believe it was Dino De Laurentiis told Sam Raimi something to the extent of, I want blood coming out, jokingly, I want blood coming out of the walls. So Sam Raimi just gave him that blood coming out of the walls. And again, I love the balance because you're scared, you laugh, just the subtle visual gags like Anubis said about A Farewell to Arms.
Yeah.
Overall, it's just easily one of the best 80s horror movies. And even though I might agree with Kevin that Army of Darkness is my favorite, I think out of the one Sam Raimi did, this is like the high point in technique and storytelling out of all of them.
Yeah. I love Army
smart
of Darkness,
storytelling. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, I love Army of Darkness, but I do appreciate the second one. But like I say, I like the first one, but the problem with the first one, I don't know about you, but I felt like it felt like an unfinished film. Like there was something missing, and then the second movie is the film that should have been. That's how I've always taken it. And I have to say again, Anthony, I apologise for missing you, but the fucking cat distracted us. It brought a pigeon into the room earlier for people that want to know.
Yeah.
Brad's got another one?
No, and earlier it did, and now he's been sleeping next to us, and then he's woke up and he's tried to cannibalise me fucking arm. He's been chewing on me fingers. So I apologise, but that could be in it. I could make a horror movie about a fucking psychotic cat.
That's fucking cat.
Yes,
Cat
in
like
the cat.
Evil Dead? Yeah. Evil Dead,
In the cat. The cat's named after Wolverine, Logan. So
nice.
So Logan is a little bastard. But let us progress and let's move on to this one, which is my all-time favourite. I love this film, Army of the Darkness. It's a great balance of a mixture of fantasy, action, horror, and comedy all rolled into one.
Fuck yeah.
So, Anthony, we'll start with you this time. What is your thought on Army of Darkness?
I got a special place in my heart for this one because it was how I was first exposed to the series. And like I said, it does strike a balance, but if I had to like pinhole this one into a genre, even though the horror elements are there, they're so downplayed that I would almost describe it more as a comedic fantasy than a horror film. But what I think, like this one, what makes especially like the humor work the most is this time you have Bruce Campbell playing it straight. Like he's the guy from the future, and these people are reacting to him to these absurd ways, and he just gets to be more a matter of fact about it. It's about that's it. I love this is my stick. And like none of them have ever seen a shotgun, so they get to play it over the top, and he's just matter of fact about the product information. Another like funny I don't know why this always makes me laugh, but at the end when they're getting ready for the Deadite attack, and he just happens to have a book of chemistry in the trunk of his car.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he ever had any intention of ever using it, but I can believe Ash would just have a chemistry book thrown in the trunk of his car just because. Like, my favorite thing about this character is how he's the right blend between clever hero and bumbling idiot. Like, you can't really tell if it's part of his plan or if he's just making it up as it goes along. And probably my favorite element is how it pays off the Deadite possessed Ash in the second one. And we have that Ash after the hilarious scene with the little Ash guys when it breaks out of him, and like Ash becomes his own nemesis. And like what a great look.
Fuck yeah.
Like that was actually like what really struck me even the first time I watched the film, because I only seen it halfway through. Once I saw that was like what really hooked me. But I don't know, it does lean more towards the comedic fantasy, but I think it's just a great entry. Depending how I feel it might or might not be my favorite. And yeah, I could nitpick some of the technical aspects because some of the effects do look like a guy in a latex mask, but I just love the movie so much I'm not gonna like make a big deal about those because I don't care, because it's just that entertaining.
See, for me, I love the first Evil Dead is a straight up horror film. The second one's a mixture of horror and comedy. This one I love because for me, this is like, it's not, for me, it was more of an action comedy movie than a horror movie. It does have its elements of like, horror and stuff like that, but it took it to a whole different level and a whole different area, with it being set in the past in this medieval world. And then obviously you have the Deadites, you have Ash, who's now in the past, and like you said before, it's like a medieval Ace Ventura gone awry, who's trying to like go out there, save the world, shag chicks, and he's making it up as he goes along. So it's like, for me, it felt like an episode of, like, a live action episode of, say, Dungeons and Dragons. That's what it felt like, in the way, like, in that kind of world. But that's just my opinion. Mr. Tony of the Dead, what's your opinion?
Like I said, this is the first time I ever heard of the franchise, which I didn't even know was a franchise. Seeing that poster, I will say this though. I'll be honest. Watching it when I was younger, I liked it a lot more than I do nowadays. I still like it, but it doesn't hold the same effect for me, I guess. But I do really like it. I never thought about the chemistry book in the car. I thought why would he have that? But then it's like, well, it's probably not his. It's probably the girlfriend's. If you think about it, she probably had the book. But I just, one thing I do love though is the parts that they cut out, like especially in the cabin with all the little hymns. I love the scenes that they cut out. I wish they would have kept it all in. I know there's like, you have editions where you can watch it with them in, but I think that when getting it cut out and then is one experience, and then watching with all the extra stuff in is another. And it's just so funny, this movie. Like it's like him with like I always think of that where he swallows himself, or the guy jumps down his throat, and he's like, "How about some hot chocolate, huh?" And like how hot that must be, and then like, and
who's laughing now?
There's a dead him inside of himself, Like, what does that look like when he shits it out? I don't know. It's just like so. It is very funny. I do like the ending.
That's
they
fucking
went
hysterical, brother.
Right. I do like the ending they went with, where like it's back in regular times, and like, he's in S-Mart, better than the whole he went too far and now everything's screwed. I don't like that ending, but I like what they ended up doing. But yeah, I it's been like maybe 2 years since I've seen it actually, so maybe I should give it another chance. But no, I shouldn't say another chance, another watch. But the whole thing with Eric the Red and the pit and everything, and like that's another thing with the blood coming out of that pit's like so over exaggerated. It's almost like an anime in a way, like how Kill Bill, like when she sliced people and then everywhere and it's coming out the arms. That's what that kind of reminded you of. But Bruce Campbell turned into like such a badass in this one. Like, first one he was kind of like and then like, the second one he had to he was going nuts, you could tell. And now I think he's just had it. Like, fuck these demons and fuck these deadites and shit. I'm sorry if I can curse on here.
They leaned into
I never saw these assholes till today.
You can swear, you can say fuck, you can say whatever. I don't give a shit.
Well, that's fucking cool.
This is not made for kids, folks. This is not made for kids.
Fuck them. Not literally. Not literally, though.
No.
I'm sorry. I just watched Quiet on the Set. Stop fucking kids, people. Jesus Christ. What the fuck?
Oh, God. Don't even talk about that documentary.
That shit made me sick, bro. But moving on.
Ruining my childhood.
Right.
I'll put this on the screen. This will distract her. She'll distract her. The female, lead, who starts off as like Bruce Campbell's love interest, that ends up turning into like the dead-out queen, as was called. This handsome motherfucker.
Fuck.
Yes. So Anyway,
one other thing I say, back when like I first got the internet and everything, and people had like, I used to go to like the Evil Dead site fan pages and that, and people had like sound clips for the movie, and a lot of them was like that one, like, you found me beautiful once, honey, you got real ugly, like I like had all those different sound clips saved on my computer.
Yeah,
and it was just like it was a different time.
That was Bridget Fonda, wasn't it? Wasn't that Bridget Fonda that played the girlfriend in the third one? I know it's a different girl that plays the girlfriend in all three movies, and I believe
she has a cameo at the Shop Mart. Yeah,
right. Okay, yeah, cool. I've always loved her.
Yeah, so we'll go to the Crypt. What's your opinion of the third film?
Well, you got to shop smart, shop S-Mart. You got that?
Yeah.
That's I love that that's interwoven into it, and I hope that we're going to cover the TV show a little bit too, because I love that part as well. But I do love this. But think about what a difference of the tone of the movie. The first one flirted with a rated X rating, and this one was PG-13, so quite a different level of entertainment, I would say, and what they were going for there, which I think is funny. I like that. I don't know if everybody realizes it was originally titled The Medieval Dead. And it was going to be called at one point Bruce Campbell versus the Army of Darkness, and then it was going to be called The Medieval Dead, and then of course they went with Army of Darkness, which is awesome. A very workable title.
I thought the title was going to be Ash versus the Army of Darkness. That's what I heard.
I know there was a bunch of them. Yeah, there was a bunch of them.
Yeah, I heard that was one of the working titles, because obviously Bruce Campbell's character is Ash, and I heard it was going to be called Ash versus the Army of Darkness.
At one point, they were going to call it Bruce Campbell versus the Army of Darkness, because that was a thing in like 50s Hollywood. They would literally use the actor's name in the title of the movie because they were pushing the actor, so even if the actor's name in the movie was Jack, it would be like John Wayne versus your dick, But
I'm glad they didn't go with that.
Yeah, me too. The Medieval Dead is pretty cool, though. I don't hate that, but
yeah,
that works. But also another cool thing I failed to mention earlier, the car, the Oldsmobile that comes flying out of the sky that he arrives in the old timey in. That car makes an appearance in almost all of Sam Raimi's work. Yeah,
it's in every single Sam Raimi product. Is in there. It's like it's become like his signature to have the car in. Like I recently just rewatched Doctor Strange Into the Madness, the second movie, and it floats around when he's in
that. Yeah. There's a YouTube video you can watch where it's that car showing up, and literally it's a ton of movies. It's a surprising amount of movies for that car.
Sam Raimi says the car's a classic. Bruce Campbell calls it a pile of junk.
I just watched Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, and that's the car that Uncle Ben drives.
Right, that's Uncle Ben's car in Spider-Man, and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Yeah, very cool.
And it's in the second one too. I mean, it's all his movies. I love that Easter. That's like, an awesome Easter egg.
Yeah,
that's an awesome Easter egg. Yeah.
I think because he knows, the fans, and obviously it's become like his signature to have the car in every film he makes, or produces or whatever. It's like it's become like Sam Raimi's signature. I'm sure it's even
first car.
I'm sorry.
Wasn't that his first car?
Oh, maybe that must be. That must be why he loves it, because man, it makes more appearances in his movies than he does for sure. So,
Mr. DJ Anubis, your turn. What did you think of the Army of Darkness?
Army of Darkness.
I was a bit concerned when I first went into seeing this in the theaters. I saw it was PG-13. I was like, because you just came off Evil Dead 2 3 years earlier.
Right.
Actually, 5 years earlier.
I remember thinking the same thing.
And I'm like, this could be a problematic film, but as the movie starts going into it, again, like Sam and Bruce, they decided to go all in on the comedy. Like they, as Anthony pointed out, they kind of just use a little bit of the aesthetic of the horror stuff, but it's more of an action comedy film. And it's interesting because you look at what happens in this film and you think about it for both Sam and Bruce. And this would be kind of like lead them down the road to Hercules and Xena. These are the kind of roles they would play down the road, where they went more comedic with the action and stuff. So it's kind of interesting how that gateway opened for them after this movie. But yeah, we talked about Bridget Fonda. I was going to bring that up. She has a nice little cameo in there. I always loved her as an actress.
Me too, man. She's a
I didn't really know this until more recently, actually, is that the legendary Bill Moseley played the Deadite captain. Like, I did not realize that was him. So hats off to Mr. Moseley, man. I love that dude so much.
Is that the dude that was also the Stay Puft guy? With the I know one of the Deadites was also who would be the Stay Puft Marshmallow guy in the Ghostbusters movie.
That I don't know. But Bill was the one that played Chop Top in TCM2.
Fuck yeah.
Stuff like that. So
Fuck yeah. Good stuff.
But this film is so great. And like a lot of the like Tony said he like downloaded a lot of clips from this film. I use some of these clips in my intro on my audio podcast. They pop up in there. And I just just so many great stuff. Like, first you want to kill me, now you want to love me. Blow. So, it's really great. And M. Beth Davids, who plays Sheila, is gorgeous in this. And there's even talk that even when she was in Deadite form, she still looked hot as hell. She's a sight for sore bones.
I can imagine. But
raise your hand if you'd have still done her when she was a zombie.
I'm there. I'm infected.
I did. I'm there. I did it. I'm guilty.
Just put a bag there. We're good.
Yeah, right.
Turn around. We'll do a doggy. It's okay. It'll work.
I don't think I'd put anything in her mouth though.
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust that too much.
Yeah, no.
So let's move on and talk about
It's like
the adult in the room voice there.
Well, if I've had a few drinks, I'll do anything. Let's be honest.
I'll keep that in mind. You sound like a cheap date.
Cheap.
PJ's having flashbacks.
But
I need to go get some more beer.
What are we talking about next? The show or the reprisal? Or
we are going to talk about the remake.
The
so
2023?
Evil Dead, the
2020,
the 2013.
Dig it. Okay, cool.
Can't believe it's that long ago already.
I know, man. I thought that earlier today when I was doing
10 years.
11 years.
Yeah. So the 2013 remake, and I'll just be honest, I'm very much on the same opinion of Mr. DJ Anubis, that I thought this was more superior to the original. And I just think really this is what Sam Raimi wanted the original to be. It threw me through a loop though, because I love the story. Everything was on point up to, the point where obviously the main character, Maya's, she's been possessed, and up to the point you just assume she's going to be the main antagonist all the way through. Right. And her brother is the protagonist. He's going to be the hero. And then they throw you a curveball. Spoilers if anyone sees it, but it's been out since 2013. If you haven't seen it, I'm sorry. They throw you a curveball where the protagonist gets killed, he gets stabbed and killed, and she's now no longer possessed, and she's now the heroine of the she's now like the new protagonist, and she's now having to fight the Deadites. That's something I never saw coming from the beginning of the movie to the end. It really shocked me, and it was a pleasant surprise, and I really enjoyed the film, and I'm really glad it shocked us the way it did. The visuals were stunning, the setting was stunning, the special effects in the horror elements were fantastic for 2013. The one that always creeps us out is the one where she's carving her face out in the bathroom with the glass, and she's like chipping away at
Dude.
herself.
Yeah.
There is no scene that like has really shocked me so much as when her fucking arm falls off, dude. That fucking shit is legit. Those special effects are fucking legit, dude.
Yeah.
The needle to the eye is the one that gets me.
She's like, for me, this was a near perfect horror film.
Well, I have to pose the question to you guys as we dive into it. I remember when the announcement came that they were making it, there was downright fury in the horror community. Like, people were fucking irate, dude. Like, fuck you. How dare you remake? So, this is a classic. Fuck you. But yeah, man, I mean, positive reviews ended up coming through.
And there's a reason for that, because the reality is
they usually fuck it up.
Right. Yeah, most remakes suck ass. So you get concerned. Now, the only reason why I was not so hesitant with this one compared to other remakes is that because I did think that the first one was so dated and could have used good work, that I was more open to this one than say some other horror like Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, you're never going to redo that one for me. I saw The Fog.
Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger, man. He just is. But go ahead.
The Fog in 2005 was abysmal, like a horrible fucking remake.
Awful.
So I mean, I understand why people were concerned, but like, this was one of those films I thought, because I talked about it on my my last video I did about remakes, and one of the things is like, there are certain movies throughout our time in the industry that they have good premise, they have a good plot, they have a good everything else. Like, Sam did everything right. Just didn't have all the things necessary to make that movie the way you did in Evil Dead 2. So Evil Dead in 2013 had that budget, dude. They had the budget to go in there and play with it.
Well, the negative detractors would say that they abandoned the comedy element. What would you say to that?
Well, see, but like Tony and you guys, a lot of you feel like the first one was more horror oriented. There wasn't really much comedy in it. So to me, I like the more serious tone. I love the serious tone of it. Like, I love the fact that Evil Dead 2 can be its own thing, and like Army of Darkness can be its own thing. And then we're taking what we have now, because I think they're going to work on a third film for this. Where you have 2013 and Evil Dead Rise. They're both serious. I'm fine with that. 100%.
Like,
well, they did it well. So
that's the key. You got to do it well. Yeah.
I think what helped this film as well is because it was also produced by Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, so they were involved in it, and I think they might have
directed it. Fede Alvarez, the guy that's going to do the new fucking Aliens movie, looks fucking fantastic.
Whoa!
Oh, Alien Romulus looks fantastic.
Yeah.
But so he's got a track record of putting on good remakes or continuations.
If you ever do an Aliens fucking dive, man, bring me. That's one of my favorite ever. So
he probably will.
I will do, because I'm going to start a new segment on my channel coming soon, so I'll keep you posted with that one. But anyway, what is Mr. Tony the Dead's view on the remake of Evil Dead 2013?
This one I had to go see in the theater. I didn't get to see any of the other ones in the theater.
I did.
So of course, I had to go see it. I think I saw it twice in one day. I think I did. I'm not sure.
That's great if you did.
If I didn't see it twice in one day, I definitely did see it twice in the theater. But I like you said about like, there's a whole thing with like remakes and touching things that are like, sacred to us. And I was okay with this getting a sequel, especially knowing that Bruce Campbell, or not a sequel, I'm sorry, a remake, knowing Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi were like involved. And the trailer looked good. So I went in this, and this one is like Anubis said, this is like straight up horror, and it's scary as fuck. And especially at the very beginning, you get a little backstory too, with like the cellar and everything, and then that's scary as hell. And then her like the cutting the tongue, like that, and like the
brutal.
everything they like, self-mutilation. It just gets right. It gets right to me, And then like like there's so much blood in it. They have like they pay an homage to the first one, and you know that as well. Like it, like the whole chainsaw.
But it's done. It's done in a good way. Where
Right.
yes, you know it's bloody, but it's not like you get a lot of films that they just throw a lot of blood in for the fact they want to throw a lot of blood in.
Right.
Where this was done in a way that when you do get a lot of blood, it's valid and it feels right and it doesn't feel forced. It just feels naturally, you know.
Could you imagine if Sam Raimi would have been able to do this type of film back in '81, like how it would have rivaled The Thing from Carpenter? Like that would have been insane.
Wow.
Isn't the 2013 version, if I'm not mistaken, used 70,000 gallons of the blood, which I believe is the record, right? That's the current record now.
I'm not really sure, but I believe it.
Yeah, I think it is.
I heard it was the record. I don't know if it's
the
still
2013 Evil Dead release has the current record for gallons of blood used. Yeah,
it shows.
70. According to Alvarez, even the final scene alone was 50,000 gallons.
I was gonna say that they had to use at least most of that blood at that final scene.
That must have taken forever to clean out.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, out of every orifice, man.
And then some.
I would have helped her. I would have helped her.
Oh yeah.
So, Crypt, your opinion?
Wait a minute. How much did you say?
70,000 gallons. He said 50,000 gallons in just the final scene.
Yeah, for the rain. Yeah. That's nuts. Yeah. That's nuts,
bro.
Yeah. So, Crypt, your opinion of the 2013 Evil Dead?
A lot of recap of what we said. Really, it's funny to me how the horror community is unlike. I think the horror community and the metal community. It's perfect that they parallel in so many ways because. The fury that those communities will have on certain news and shit. Like, dude, I remember when the word hit that they were going to redo this, and especially when the word came behind it that Raimi wasn't directing it. People were like, fuck you, fuck you right in your face, fuck you right in your mother's face. Like, it's crazy. People were so pissed off. And I remember thinking, like, dude, people ain't even going to watch this. And then slowly but surely you started trickling in these. Well, it wasn't that bad. And, hey, man, maybe we should give it a chance. And, all of a sudden it's a goddamn good fucking movie. And it was, and I think it's because that it is.
I think it's because this day and age is, we're all in the era now where Hollywood is fucking, the brains have dried up.
Yeah,
there's no real originality anymore. They're clinging on to things that's happened, that's made the money before the studios. And when there isn't any new film directors or anybody with good ideas, the first thing they think about is, well, look at something we already own or have, and we'll reboot the fucking shit out of it.
Right. Well, they do it with everything. Yeah.
And it to make a quick buck. And when you're in that mentality, 9 times out of 10 when they do reboot a film, a classic movie, it's a flop, or it's just not has the same passion in it or drive, or it comes across the way the original did. And there's now and then there's like a gem that comes out that is like, I would be the first one to say when I heard they were going to do Top Gun Maverick, I rolled my eyes. I was like, are you kidding me? Why the fuck would you do Top Gun Maverick? Like, why? Why is the point? What they're going to do? What's the story going to be? How can they do it? It's a waste of time. But when it came out, like everybody else, I was in awe of it. I thought,
it's a good movie. This turned out being a good movie.
The only ones I really don't understand is like there's a movie from 2022 called Speak No Evil that came on Shudder. Fantastic film. Now they're doing an American remake, and it's only been 2 years later. Like, I really think that's crappy because it doesn't really give that other movie a chance to shine,
to breathe, right?
From an independent, filmmaker. So it just kind of annoys me when that happens. But
to button that up, Maverick was it was a continuation of the story, so I had less of a problem with that, in my opinion. But when it comes to the Evil Dead, I remember specifically, like, it's funny what works and what doesn't work, and what our expectations are, and what they. Because I definitely remember my key argument was no Bruce Campbell, no Evil Dead. Like, fuck you. what made the movies to me going into this before the 2013 movie came out was Bruce Campbell. You know what I mean? His physical acting, his his attitude, his comedic value, and all that. So absent Raimi, I sure as fuck was leery of it. I know people now even who say that it was a great movie, but they should have called it something else. But and I kind of get that argument, but I loved it, and I thought it was pretty fantastic and shit. So.
Did when I remember going to see it, they said stick to the end. There's probably something at the end, and I waited, and then the only thing you got was groovy. And I was like, that was worth it. That was worth it.
It was though, right? It was.
Right?
It was worth it.
It made you think that, well, hasn't it been like, well, before they did the one that came out last year, the 2023 movie. It's been in development for years that the remake was going to spin off where they would do a sequel and involve Ash. It was going to be Maya and Ash teaming up eventually. That apparently that is something that had been in development for years, and for whatever reason, it just never has happened or materialized.
Well, one thing is, I think that Campbell's kind of tired of playing the role. Like, he loves the role, he cherishes what he did, but he understands he's getting older. So, like, I know we're going to get to the series that Crypt is talking about, and that's a lot of fun, but I think that ran out of gas too, because I think just comes a point where Bruce is just kind of tired of being kind of pigeonholed in this one particular role, because he's a very fine actor outside of this. So that's part of it, and I think right now the people that are doing like 2013 and Evil Dead Rise have done a very good job. So I think it's in good hands.
Yeah,
I've seen an interview with Bruce Campbell where he touches on that he realized he couldn't give the physical element to the role that he thought it deserved, and that's when he was like, you know what, let's get new people and do what we do. They really had to drag his ass out of he didn't want to do the TV show for a long time,
right
until he started seeing some of the scripts, and then he was like, well, fuck yeah, I got to do that. So
I think it depends on the material.
If anything, he needs a new like sequel to Bubba Hotep. That's what he needs.
I love that, dude. That's one of my favorite movies, bro. I love that movie.
Bubba Hotep is amazing.
I just watched that recently, even, dude. I llove that movie.
They guide me that way.
What's that?
Lick the dog dick of Anubis.
They guide me that way.
You have a dog dick?
Yeah, dude. I love it. That's so great, dude.
Want me to show you?
The old black dude is JFK and shit,
right there
man.
in front of you.
He's like, I was JFK. Fucking that shit is
It's how straight they play that.
Yes.
So
great,
yes.
Dude. So great.
Before I move on, have I missed anybody out this time?
Jordan.
You
keep fucking him over, man.
Damn.
Anthony Jordan.
You
Let's
keep doing
go.
him like a fucking guest at P. Diddy's house, bro.
Okay, I'll tell you how
Ooh.
I'll start with how I found out about this movie. I had went to see the first Hobbit with a friend at a midnight showing, and when we came out, they had the posters, and there was this guy in front of us. He picked it up, looked, and he like saw no Bruce Campbell, and just
oh wow, the fury.
Yeah, like my friend grabbed one, and like we didn't see it in the theater, but he had gotten a computer, and I'm just like, he went on the ocean, cast out a lure, and managed to find a copy. So we hooked his laptop up to my TV, and I'm like, I decided I'm going in with an open mind, and it just had this like great visceral feel, even though it had all this more realistic, brutal gore, with the exception of the needle to the eye scene, which really gets to me. It just never felt like any of it was done for just pure shock value.
Yeah.
It was done to just enhance the atmosphere, which is hard to do with gore. And I just found myself interested. I do get like the complaint that it should have been called something else because they don't really feel like Deadites, although I feel like something when we get to it in Evil Dead Rise does fix that problem. But I just
Mm.
went along with the ride and just found myself really enjoying it. And then when you get to the end and you just get that brief shot of him saying groovy, and it kind of like and it hit me where, is this really a remake or is this a completely different book and in the same universe? Either way, it did the most important thing a remake should do, and that is respect the original. And like
Yeah.
Kevin said, just the out of left field with the girl then becoming the hero, a part of me like wonders, was that like done after the fact? And if it was, like, I'm glad they did it, because just that little touch is what really elevated it and made it stand on my own. I might get a lot of purists mad at me for saying this, but even though the remake has its problems, I think it's overall better than the original.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I feel the same. Like, I think Anubis feels the same. I prefer this to the original. For me, if I had to go back and look at the three original films, the second one is superior to the first one, and then the third one's just an all-out action comedy. The first one, I think, because of budget restraints and maybe limitations from the studio, it wasn't the film that Sam Raimi intended it to be. And he produced him, Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell produced the remake, and I think because they were involved in the production, I think it allowed them to make this a true interpretation of the film that he originally sent out for it to be.
And it should be known, because I don't know how it is with you guys, but despite my love for this over the original Evil Dead, it doesn't necessarily mean it's my favorite Evil Dead film of all time. So my rankings will show something different.
I was going to say, at the end, we're going to rank them, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, that'll work.
So let's move on to, before we go to we've done the remake. Before we move on to the continuation, let's talk about the television show. So I absolutely loved the first season of this show. I got into the second season. I haven't seen the third season though.
What?
But I just thought,
Me either, actually.
I
What?
I haven't had a chance to finish the show.
Well, the problem is that I don't know about for Kevin or anybody else, but they started out on one network and then it switched over, and then it switched over again, and then I got behind. So I can go back and binge it now. I think it's on Netflix or something, but I can go back and binge it, and now I can get to the third season, which I've heard is open-ended anyway. So it's like, it's probably going to frustrate me because I'm probably going to want more, but they're not going to do it. So
it is going to leave you frustrated for sure.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing the first season, and for me, it felt like a true continuation from the films, the original film series. In the trailer park, and you meet the neighbors and all that, and then all hell breaks loose. I just thought it was beautiful. Visually, it was stunning. The effects were beautiful. The cast were amazing. The story was great. And all, it was a blast. It was a blast. I wish they had continued it.
Me too. Fucking, they always cancel my shit.
Mm-hmm. because if it isn't classed as mainstream, or it doesn't hit a certain level of ratings, it's classed as a failure or whatever. Like, I get frustrated with Netflix a lot for this shit because a show will do so well, but because it isn't the next Stranger Things or the Game of Thrones, and it doesn't hit them kind of ratings, it's classed as a failure or mediocre, so they cancel it.
What network did it start on? Do you remember, Chris?
Stars.
Stars.
Yeah, it was
so that's part of the problem. See, you're going to have a big following for the Evil Dead franchise, but you've selected one movie channel that really a lot of people don't have. Like, we'll have HBO Max or Cinemax or something, but they don't generally have that one. So it's like, if they would have gone on, like, say, I don't know, Netflix, or even like Now we have like, I don't know, Paramount or something. Maybe you have a better shot at it, but because they started out on a different network, I think that was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking man. I can't believe I read a thing actually where Bruce Campbell blamed people pirating the show. He said if more people got stars, if half the people that watched our show got stars as downloaded, we'd probably have 10 seasons of it. So
Yeah.
But
That's
maybe what DJ Anubis is saying is one of the reasons why it was pirated is because with it being on a channel nobody really gets,
nobody fucking had,
and they're a massive fan of the Evil Dead, like a wider audience, that had no choice but to pirate it.
That's the problem is that, like, say we watched Godzilla Legacy of Monsters, so we only subscribed to the channel during that time that was streaming. Now
that was a great fucking stuff.
Right. So, but that's my point is like now people are having to like subscribe for like one thing. Like it's not like they offer a lot of shit. It's like we got one thing. So back then, I don't think they even had that option. So it's really weird.
I'm not
by the time you get 35 different streamings, man, like what the fuck?
Right.
Even then versus now, like a lot less people were less likely to get with cable. You couldn't just add the one channel; you had to add the new package. So
package.
Like, I love Evil Dead, but do I want to increase my cable bill by $35 just for this one show?
Right. Yeah. That's a half hour a week, like 7 times a year. Like what the
now I'll pay $10-15 or whatever it is for a streaming service, watch this one show, and when it's over I'll cancel.
Disengage.
If they could have got it on something like AMC, I think it would have been a better fit.
You just got to get to a point where we can do a la carte for shows. Like if I could just pay like $50 a month,
let me buy that show. Right.
And then I could just add whatever fucking shit that I want to my fucking app.
Well,
that's all I want to do.
It would not surprise me if that happens in the future.
When did that format change, though? Remember, like, dude, Scully went out recently and bought me the Twilight Zone, the original Twilight Zone box set. It's all the originals in the black and white. They're amazing. I highly recommend it if anybody hasn't seen them. But, dude, that shit was like 50 fucking episodes a year. Now a season of something is fucking 7 or 10 episodes. When the fuck did that happen?
Yeah, well, in my what I know of is like in China and Japan, they're the only country that still does shows that's like 100 episodes a season.
What the fuck? Yeah,
like
it's weird that you can call it an entire season if there's only 10 episodes. Think about like The Simpsons. They've been around for fucking how many 35 years, and every year they're still doing 25 episodes a year. Meanwhile, South Park, who I love way more than The Simpsons, even, but
well, I wonder if it's better to do it that way because one thing that frustrated me about History Channel's Vikings is that by the time I was done with the season, it took them almost another year to get to the second season. So I'm like, damn, I forgot what happened in the first season. Now I got to go back.
Right, watch it again.
Yeah,
Netflix does that too a lot.
Yeah,
you got to wait a whole year for something. You binge it in the weekend, and you have to wait another year.
Yep.
Right, dude. Remember The Sopranos? At one point, there was like 3 years between a season. Like, goddamn, dude.
I never watched The Sopranos.
Oh, I do recommend it, man.
I fucking love The Sopranos.
Yeah,
I know
The
how
Sopranos is one of my favorite all-time shows.
I will just say for the record, if there's a speech on a boat with Bobby 3 episodes before the last episode.
I saw that, yeah.
And in my opinion, it explains the ending perfectly, and it's great. It's perfect storytelling. I think the ending is awesome for The Sopranos.
Here's the ending.
It works. Yeah. It works.
The Deadites eat them. The Deadites
They set it up for it to end like that, man. I'm telling you, it's good stuff.
I've never actually seen that one, and I'm originally from New Jersey, so that should be like more of a I need to see this for that alone.
Yes,
you need to watch The Sopranos.
Yeah, it's must watch, man, for sure.
But anyway, we went off course a little.
Yeah. Sorry.
So, Anubis, did you see any of this show?
I saw the first 2 seasons, but I haven't seen them in a long while. That's why I have to go back and kind of watch them all again and then watch the final one because I do remember he teamed up with a girl and a guy, Pablo, that were fighting evil, and then
they work at S-Mart with them.
Right, and then they had reoccurring like characters like Samara Weaving was in there, Lee Majors.
Samara Weaving. Lee Majors plays Bruce Campbell's dad, dude. How awesome is that?
Lucy Lawless from Xena was in there a few times. I really love her.
Xena's great.
So it has a lot of great people in it. It was a well written show too. It was so cluttered and chaotic on how it came out that was part of the problem. So yeah, it was a good show. It was a good show.
Mm-hmm. Anthony Jordan.
I've only just seen like the first half of the first season because like we didn't have stars, and the same friend that went fishing for the remake went fishing for this one. And although I enjoyed it, and like I got like the younger characters are there to take some of the physicality off of Bruce Campbell. So I didn't mind them. I thought they were good characters, but we got about halfway through the season and he decided, even though I was getting into it, you know what? I'm not liking this, and he just deleted it off his laptop.
You should have threw him overboard.
Not your computer. Like, there's only so much you can do.
Right.
Yeah. Mr. Tony of the Dead, what's your thoughts?
Same as Anthony Jordan. I only saw maybe a little bit the first season, and I didn't have stars.
Shame on you guys.
I have it now, but I have not watched it, and it's because I know that it like ends open ended or whatever.
Yeah, I get that.
Like
though.
I don't want to like watch it. Like I hate that shit.
I do get that, man.
But I do remember the first episode watching, and I was like, that was such a good first episode that, like, you know, the way he like in the trailer like flew through and then the chainsaw went on his hand and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
that was good.
Yeah, it was good. I remember liking
he cut
it.
up his neighbor with the chainsaw. That was good stuff.
Yeah.
I fucking love this woman in the series. She fucking I was in awe. I was in awe of the first season when she went wild and she became a dead outling.
Fuck yeah, good shit.
But yeah, I mean, I would like to watch it, but like I said, knowing that it doesn't like it's open ended like that, like it just kind of like. It's like I could watch other things first.
Now, it's still worth it. I swear it is. It's good stuff.
But it's cool. Like I did see the Lucy Lawless one with was it like with a dinner or something?
Yeah, that's a great episode. I know exactly the episode. That's a great one. Yeah.
So since he loves it so much, the Crypt. What's your opinion?
I loved it, man. When I was so excited about it when I heard that it was coming, man, and that Bruce Campbell and Ash and all that. As soon as I heard the title was Ash versus the Evil Dead, I was fucking boing. But I love, speaking of the Oldsmobile, the old Oldsmobile Delta 88 plays a key role. That's what they're driving around in. It's the famous car. I love every fucking thing about the show. I love that, like he was saying, Lucy Lawless is in it. I think that's fantastic. And the setup, not to spoil anything, because it happens early, so I don't think it's too much of a spoiler. It's literally one of the very first scenes, but the setup for the entire show is Ash brings a girl home to his trailer all fucked up partying, and she's like, they're doing mushrooms and smoking weed and shit, and she's like, read some poetry to me basically and I'll give you some booty. And he's like, I got something to read, and he pulls out the fucking Book of the Dead and starts reading to her, and that's what kicks off the whole fucking thing. I think that's goddamn brilliant. I love every part of that, man. Then they're eating mushrooms. He wakes up the next day with like mushroom pieces stuck to his face, and then his neighbor's turning into a deadite and shit. It's brilliant, man. It's fucking fantastic storytelling.
He would be the one to read it.
Yeah, right.
It could have happened anyway. Let's be honest.
I love that they make him a rubber hand, like his sidekick dude on the show. What the fuck is his name again? Shit, I can't think of the dude's name. His sidekick. Pablo, like makes him a rubber hand that he wears and shit. And everything about it is great, man. I truly love the TV show. I thought everything about it except for the ending is great, honestly. So
I know I have his character on Dead by Daylight, and I have him covered in blood, and he runs around with that puppet on his hand.
Ashley Slashy.
Yeah.
great.
I didn't get to that part. I didn't see.
Oh,
My cousin ended up buying it, and I was like, "What the hell is that from the show? That's weird."
Yeah, I
there's
used to.
great physical comedy in the
shit.
show, man.
Before I gave up on Dead by Daylight, I had Ash and I purchased a puppet because I just thought that looked so much more interesting than the
Oh
hand.
yeah, that's cool.
I'm coming.
I love
Are you?
it. Are you all over yourself? Damn it, man.
My HDMI cable, like I knocked over the tower, and now the cable bent, so I got to grab another cable. Hold on.
Cable.
All this talk about Ashley Slashy or whatever his name is.
Yeah, man. I think it was the Xena Warrior Princess talk that put him over the top. That I get it.
NECA actually had that puppet on the market for a while.
Fuck yeah. I never liked that show, but I watched it anyway because I loved her. And then Hercules, who knew Kevin Sorbo's a fucking douchebag?
Yeah,
Hey, man, why are you showing us your ding dong?
There we go. Me.
That was the OnlyFans version of our show.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, bow chicka bow bow.
But like you say, for me with the show, I watched the first 2 seasons. I loved the first season, and I loved the one thing I loved about it. Yes, it had the comedy element, it had the corny element of what we know from like Army of Darkness, but I liked the pacing of the show. It was a good pacing, and the story was good from start to finish. It had a great mixture of being serious and comedic. You had the police officer lady in the first series who I thought was going to have a much bigger part, and then she suddenly dies after a few episodes, which, just like with the Evil Dead remake, really surprised us and took us through a loop, because the way they had built it up, to be a much bigger part of the show.
I remember that. That's right.
And then I think it's 4 or 5 episodes in when they go to, I think, the dad's house who owns the store or something. It's a big old house. And she's there with her partner, and shit goes down and she dies. But you just didn't expect that they would kill her off the way they did, or that fast within the series.
That just goes to show you nobody's safe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's why they do that shit sometimes, man.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I love
Thrones
this
being a key example of that shit.
Absolutely. But like you say, the series was good. It's a shame that it ended, and it's a shame that it ended open-ended, basically.
Really
but we moved on. A few years later, I think the Evil Dead franchise was in development hell for a while, or they just didn't know where they wanted to take it next. And like I mentioned earlier, there was all this talk of it being basically a continuation of the 2013 film. There were rumours that they were going to, like you said, you had that small little cameo with Ash going groovy at the end of the movie, and then there was obviously, that for me was a setup to them bringing Ash into the remake and building a world around him and Maya. And it didn't happen. And then the next thing you know, it's kind of, I don't know if it's just classed as a standalone movie, or if it's connected to the remake or even the original. Then we moved on and we had the brand new movie, which is Evil Dead Rise, which I'm just going to be honest, I thought, just like the remake, I fucking loved this film. I absolutely loved it. I loved the trailer when I seen the trailer, but like majority films right now, when you see a trailer, you look at a film, you go, right, and everything that's good about the film is in the trailer.
Yeah.
All too often. Yeah.
But when I watched the film, I was pleasantly surprised, and just like the remake, I couldn't believe the amount of blood and the goriness and how serious the new film was. So I'll go to Anthony Jordan. You've recently just watched this. What's your opinion of Evil Dead Rise?
I had not looked anything to it because I just dismissed the film until you invited me on this episode, and I rented it off of the marketplace on Xbox, and I'm like, same thing. Just go into it with an open mind. And I had a blast with it. I liked that it added just a little bit more comedy, so the Deadites felt more like what we know them as. And my favorite thing in the film was when the recording mentioned 3 different books of the dead. So you literally just can easily tie the Ash stuff, the remake, and this film in the same universe.
Right.
I loved the story with the sisters. Admit it, I'll probably never look at a cheese grater the same way again.
No doubt, dude.
And this film actually did something original. And for those who have seen it, the scene when she's on the rampage looking through the peephole of the door, and you got the over the top violence, but that was creepy. But just because the peephole limited what you could see as she's killing the neighbors, it just kind of somehow, it was both over the top yet subdued at the same time, which I thought was brilliant. I loved especially this design of the Book of the Dead with the teeth seal and how blood opens it. This might be my favorite look for the Book of the Dead. And even though I was initially a little apprehensive with the younger sister character, she was easily my favorite character in the movie. And I wound up thinking when it ended, you know what? If they continue this with that sister as the new protagonist, it's I'm fine with that, because although no one can hold a candle to Bruce Campbell, she as the lead and as the protagonist protecting her niece, her nephew and her nieces, she did a perfectly fine job holding the film back together, and she still had her great tough moments. She was just a fun all-around character, and the movie just thank you for inviting me on this, because I don't know if I'd have seen it, and I do highly recommend it. It feels more, as much as I love the remake, it feels more traditionally Evil Dead than the remake. And if you listen carefully, one of the scenes with the recording, when you hear a guy say it's called the Book of the Dead for a reason, apparently that was a Bruce Campbell character, and I don't know how the series ends, but the director had said that in his mind that's actually Ash time displaced yet again.
Cool.
Nice.
Cool. No shit, I didn't know that.
Brilliant. Crypt, your opinion of the remake?
That's good shit. I definitely well, first off, since I've talked about the car probably too much through this, but this is the only installment of the franchise to not have the car. The car is nowhere to be found in this version, so no Oldsmobile.
Is it not seen in the car park at the end?
No, nope. This is the only car nowhere to be found in this movie, and it's the only part. Again, it's the TV show. It's almost a character in the TV show. Let's see. But a funny thing about this movie, apparently originally they were just going to put it right onto HBO. But as they started doing the test screenings with everybody was losing their mind about how much they loved it. So they were like, well, fuck, we got to put it in the movie theaters. And it's a good thing they did, because that decision led to, what was it? $60 some odd million extra that they made on the movie. So I think that's a pretty good call. The pizza place is called Henrietta. That is the demon in the basement. I think that's cool. I love what I love about all these movies is the Easter eggs, man. Sam Raimi and the guy, everybody who's put in their blood, sweat, and tears in the Evil Dead franchise has gone out of their way to painstakingly drop these Easter eggs and these little nods to different things, and I love that about it, man. Like to the point where apparently in the film the clock on the wall is the same exact clock from Evil Dead 1. Like those kind of things, I fucking love that shit, man. You know. But yeah, they definitely stuck it to the vest with it being a pretty straightforward horror. The chick playing, walking through the hallway scene that you alluded to a minute ago, I think is an immediate classic scene that people are going to remember a long time. You know what I mean? So I think it's a badass installment, and it keeps the whole thing alive. So awesome stuff.
Mr. Tony the Dead.
It took me a little while to watch this. I probably watched it, I don't know when, a couple of months ago, I guess. And I remember liking it. I remember thinking it was okay. I don't remember being like, oh my God about it. But I remember being creeped out and everything. I definitely have to go re-watch it. Maybe I was in the wrong mindset for it or something. But I might have been in my head like, I might have been comparing it to the 2013 for some reason. I don't know, but I don't have like a love for it like you guys do. But I didn't mind it. I remember the hall scene, but like it's hard for me to remember a lot from it, to be honest. Like I forgot about it.
Can I throw a question at you and maybe the panel even like, do you a franchise like this that you have a love for? Is it something? Because honestly, I'm surprised to hear that there's parts of it that some of you guys haven't seen. Like I have to see it, even if I think it's gonna suck. I have to. I have no choice in the matter. I watched the goddamn Freddy, Nightmare on Elm Street shitty remake immediately, like as soon as I was able to, because I had to, and I knew I was gonna hate it. I knew I was gonna hate it because Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. But like, is that not the same for you guys? Like I have to go see it immediately though. There's no way I cannot,
It's hard for me to get to the movies, so I usually have to wait till it's like available. Either like, I don't sail the seas or anything, but my friend does, so I sometimes have to do it that way, or I'll just wait till it's like Black Friday and I'll just go out and buy it.
Yeah, I generally like if it's a franchise that I love. Whether I hear shit reviews, good reviews, I'll go and see it.
Yeah, I'll still watch it. Yeah,
but there are films that are, that
well,
maybe
you say you'll go see it, but does that mean I'll go see it immediately, or like I'll get around to seeing it?
No, I'll know, like if it's like a film series that I absolutely love, and whether I've heard bad reviews or not, I'll go to the theater to see it. But then there's other films where
I'm that guy too, man.
But the other films or other series that I'm not as hyped for, but I enjoy, that if I hear the film's done not, the reviews aren't that great, or even if they are great but I'm hesitant myself, I'll just wait till it's on streaming. When it came to this particular film, because I do love the Evil Dead, and it wasn't the original Evil Dead, it was because of how well made the remake was, and I heard the great reviews about this one, I immediately went to the theatres to see it. Because it was, and because I thought, the reviews basically said it's a great entry in the series, but it's nothing like the original. It's something fresh, right. But it also has a lot of nostalgic. But they also said they had a little bit of nostalgic value to it, and that's exactly what I took from it. It was fresh, it was different, but I could see the nostalgia in it, and I could see how they had tried to add elements to the film that were nods or Easter eggs to the past films. Like you mentioned, the clock on the wall was from the first Evil Dead. Stuff like that, and I loved it. And I thought the story was different. I liked how it was about this mother in this rundown apartment who's trying to make ends meet, and unfortunately she's the one that becomes the biggest, violent Deadite we've ever seen on screen. And how the sister's the one
It was
that's,
great. She was great.
you know, the sister's the one that's trying to save them from basically hell and back. And I just loved the story. I love the concept of it. And I loved how they did take her from the woods and took her somewhere else. Like, even like the Army of Darkness had her in the woods and had her in like a forest area and then castles and back in time. And this is the first time where we've been anywhere really concrete outside of the woods. And I like the fact that they tried to do something different, and I think it worked. And I think
it put it in the city, but somehow put it in a location that was equally isolated.
Absolutely, and it was,
which was key.
definitely, and
a great point, actually.
Yeah, and for me, going forward, what I like is whether how I look at the Evil Dead now is because obviously this film, it's not been revealed yet if it's directly linked to the originals. You know, obviously you see the beginning in the woods with where they find that book or whatever the girl's possessed. And then, you see what happens at the end and how the beginning happened with the Deadites, and you know how she goes into her car and all that. She ends up in the woods, and obviously gets a boyfriend that gets possessed. She comes out the friggin' lake, and she's like, that's it. It cuts to the beginning of the movie. So you see all that happen, but it's not really explained. Like the book in the apartment. You might have to refresh my mind, but I can't remember if it ever reveals how that book ended up in the apartment. I know the nosy...
It's in a vault in the basement.
Yeah, there was an earthquake which opened up a hole in the floor in the parking lot, and there was a vault with the book and the recordings in there.
Yeah, but it's never revealed. It's never revealed who put it in the vault, is it, or where? Or
I think they have a name, but it's probably not a name that anyone recognizes. It's probably some collector that just had them.
Yeah, but it's not like, but you see, because of that, it's not really revealed if it's linked to the first, like
it's not
the original.
Direct canon.
Yeah, it's not like direct to the originals. It's not direct to the remakes.
Well, there's some future stuff that might address that.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
But like,
what is the plan? How many movies are coming? It's more than one more, right? Like it's a series.
Once I get around to talking to it, I'll tell you.
Okay. But what I was going to say is like how I look at it until Anubis tells me his stuff. I look at this now as like it's an anthology series. Each of the Evil Dead films could just be standalone from now on, as long as they stick to the what's worked in the past with the 2013 one and this one. I'd be quite happy if each Evil Dead film was just standalone, and maybe just a little snippet connected, like what they did in the original with American Horror Story.
Right.
I would have much rather seen a sequel to the 2013 one than a whole new thing, though. Like I want to see where she's at now. You know, like the new Ash. Kind of like I would have liked to seen that.
Well, yeah, I would have loved a direct sequel, but it just, well, for now, it hasn't happened. But
maybe she'll show up another time.
Maybe that's true. Yeah.
So I'm up to Anubis, I believe now.
Did you get my private message on Facebook, Kevin? There's something I want you to grab there for me. So yeah, in regards to the future of this franchise, it was talked about in April of last year that Campbell and Sam and Ivan were talking about continue future films of this series, but they want to do it like every 2 to 3 years instead of 10. And quoted here is, I think the stories will progress a little more now. We're going to try and do them more like every 2 to 3 years rather than every 10 years. It's also the first time Sam is working with his brother Ivan to create an overall Bible that will give future writers and directors an idea where this thing should go next to potentially tie in some of these stories. So I think it's going to get a little more tied in as the years go by, but because it's all about the books, it could be a book in the past, a book in the future, and yet to be determined.
Fuck yeah.
So that's good news there, because I think they do have the little nods here and there, but I think eventually they're going to try to tie everything together somehow. So I'm like everyone else. Tony didn't really like the new setting, but the funny thing is, did you get that photo I sent you, Kevin?
Yes, I have. I've got it. Yeah,
So
ready.
when Neko and I watched that, this was the favorite part of the film for me. And it's so simple. Go ahead and show it. That is the fucking amazing how that worked in the film to start. And the funny thing is, like, you guys were talking about how it plays upon where it's changing the setting from the lake and the forest to the city. And the first thing I thought about was Predator 2, because in the trailer for Predator 2, they have the jungle scene going and talking about the first film, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're going to the concrete jungle now. And that's kind of the vibe that I got from this, is what they were doing. And of course, we talked about Alyssa Sutherland, the mother, who was in the Viking series, actually, which was kind of funny, but great actress. She did a great job with the role. Very creepy. The effects are just as good. I have no problem. Like, I didn't really get, I wasn't really lost on the fact that it wasn't like a direct sequel to 2013. I didn't get bothered by that. Just because it's Evil Dead, like it can happen at any point, anywhere. So, and I think with these guys going to try to go down and try to tie them in some way will work and kind of answer all those questions that Tony has about the jumping around. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I do love this film a lot, though.
Well, there is good news about another movie, and I've got it here. There is another movie coming. It's already got its director. Now, this one, I don't know if you knew about this, Anubis, but this one I think is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Because me and Anubis have been talking, like, the last time I had him on the Into the Darkness, we did a segment on phobias, and we watched the trailer for Sting, the brand new giant spider movie that's coming out. But obviously, Anubis likes his move. So Anubis, you know, he has his tarantulas, and because of that, we've been talking a lot about spiders lately. And there's a film that is coming on Shutter soon. I think I sent you the trailer, Anubis, and you did the trailer reaction. It had a different name, but it's now called it's called
Vermin. Yeah.
It's called Vermin. It's a French-based film that basically is coming to Shutter, and it's about spiders, deadly spiders that multiply very quickly in a French apartment complex. Well, I can tell you now.
I love spider movies.
Well, I can tell you now that the director of that particular film is going to be the director of the brand new Evil Dead film. He's been...
Yeah, dude.
Yes, if what I've seen of the trailer, and I've actually just read a review for Infested that's going, and they've given it 5 stars. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, and I think that's something me and Anubis will review later on. So it's
Speaking
called
of spiders and remakes, ain't they remaking Arachnophobia?
Yes.
I wonder what's going on with that remake, because I haven't heard anything in a while.
Well, all I can think of is if this film Sting that's due out this month and this Vermin does really, really well, it'll probably fast track the reboot of Arachnophobia.
Because what was all your guys' rankings of these films and series for Evil Dead?
Yeah, I was about to get onto that. I just wanted to mention that we are getting a sequel. So what it's got in February 2024, it was announced that spin-off film is currently in development. Sebastian Van Kick will serve as director from a script he co-wrote with Florent Bernard, selected by Raimi to helm the new installment in the series. The film's plot is currently under wraps. Sam Raimi and Robert Tabert will serve as producers, with Ghost House Pictures producing the project. So Sam Raimi's still involved in the next film, which I think every time he's involved, it's going to work out well, to be honest. But let's get let's get to what Anubis has said. Let's rank these suckers.
Oh wait, we're not doing the video games? No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
We'll save that for the next video.
Yeah.
Visually, the
So-
video game was cool, but the game itself was not that great.
I never
Yeah.
got to play it, so I can't comment.
It was too dependent on everyone having to perfectly cooperate together.
Yeah, right.
It was way more
Well,
fun to be a Deadite, for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
I've never had a console since the PlayStation 2. So I wouldn't have a clue. I discovered alcohol and going out partying, so that was my downfall of computers. So
Fuck yeah.
Alcohol and video games go hand in hand, though. You should
Yeah, man.
give it a try.
yeah,
I don't
but-
know. My dad always told me that if you play a bunch of video games, you're never going to get no pussy. So I never really got into a bunch of video games because of that shit. It always stuck out in my
Wise
brain
man.
like that. Yeah.
So anyway, let's rank these. We'll start with Mr. Anthony Jordan. If you had to rank the movies from 1 to, is it 6 up to? Is it 6 films or 5 films?
I include 5 films in the series in my rankings.
Yeah.
you
So let's start with Anthony Jordan.
I'll put the series to the side because I hadn't seen all of it, but in upfront, whichever I put last, I like all of these movies, but one has to go last.
Right.
Like, I'd probably go with the original in last place, just because even though we all like it, we've all admitted to the issues the film has. Next, I would probably, and this is the tough one, like, maybe the remake, then Rise, and Evil Dead 2 with Army of Darkness is my favorite. But again, I love all of these films, so putting certain ones lower on the list no means of saying they're bad movies.
Crypt.
Let's see. Number 6 for me, because I guess there are 6 properties here. And I love them all, so it feels weird to name any one 6 because you feel like you're putting shade on it, which I'm not. But for me, probably Evil Dead Rise is number 6 for me, honestly. I do like it. I think it's a great movie, but just everything else, even 1 has a nostalgic value for me. But so then number 5 for me would be probably the 2013 version. And then number 4, I would say, is the original Evil Dead. Number 3 would be Army of Darkness. Number 2 is the TV show for me, honestly. Ash versus Evil Dead is, I love it. I think it's brilliant. It's number 2 for me, and then number 1 is Evil Dead 2.
No problem. Mr. Tony of the Dead.
Well, like Anthony said, I'm going to put the show on the side because I didn't see it all as well. But I would say number 5 for me would be Rise. And then probably Army of Darkness. And then probably the 2013. And then the original, and then part 2. But like I said, part 2 and part 1 are pretty close. But I would have to go with part 2 as number 1.
Totally agree.
Mr. Anubis.
At number 6, I have the original Evil Dead. Number 5, I have the Ash versus the Evil Dead series, even though I haven't seen the last season yet, but I still like it enough to put it above the original. Number 4, I have Evil Dead Rise. Number 3, Evil Dead 2013. Number 2, Army of Darkness. And then, of course, Evil Dead 2 at number 1.
Well, it's my turn. So at my number 6, because I've seen the first 2 seasons, but I haven't finished that. I do need to see the last season. So it will be Ash versus the Evil Dead at number 6. At number 5, I'm going to have to make it the original Evil Dead for the reasons that we've talked about. At number 4, I'm going to have to say Evil Dead Rise, even though I love it. I've still got nostalgic value with the other 3. So at number 3 is Evil Dead 2. at number... Where
Two.
am I up to? 2, yeah. Number 2 would be the Army of Darkness, and number 1 is the Evil Dead 2013 because I just love it. I just think it's a perfect remake.
We're all over the place.
Your number 1 doesn't have Ash in it. Right on.
It does right at the end. Right at the end.
Groovy. That's his moment.
Groovy. Yeah.
Groovy.
Groovy,
It took like
but
20 minutes to get to that, but
like
it was worth it.
I
That's hard
love
to digest, bro.
I love all the Evil Dead, and
All
Ash
of-
is
In the entire Evil Dead universe, 96% of it has Ash, and your number
Yes.
1 doesn't. I'm just,
And for all the purists, they all hate us because we didn't have the original at number 1.
yeah.
Now,
But-
I think even the purists get that number 1 is a flawed film, but
if Anubis what he's read is correct, and all these new films are eventually going to tie in, they will probably have to at one point bring in Ash, or at least Bruce Campbell, in a different role, but have him featured within the films, because you can't have Evil Dead without Ash. Without
you're not allowed to say that. Based on your rankings, you're not allowed to say that.
But
I mean, technically you can. You don't have to actually have them in it because the books are the key pieces of everything. So
right. The book.
But I mean, you might have something where, because like I think Tony said about Army of Darkness, the original ending was a futuristic where he jumped too far over in the future.
Right.
So they could technically go back and get an older version of Ash in one of these scenes in whatever movie they want to do, and kind of do that kind of thing. But I don't think he's going to be a staple of any kind of film going forward.
Yeah, I just think, me personally, with the older movies, with how they did the time jump and they kind of made it like a Back to the Future kind of thing, the newer kind of movies, I can't see them taking it that far. I think they're going to be more serious in tone, and I think they'll be more serious plot-wise. Because of that, I can't see them doing time jumps or anything like that. They might have recordings of past things from the past, or like they could even do a scene like, see, out of The Exorcist, where you see them in like some location in a pyramid and they see like hieroglyphics of like deadites on the walls. I could see them doing something along the lines of that, but not to the extent of them like going back in time or into the future.
Leave the time jump as subtext.
Yeah, something like that. But either way, I think Ash could make an appearance, but it'll be a different version, like you said, Anubis. An older version of Ash that battled them in the past, who's there. But I do love Evil Dead. It's my favourite franchise. And it's like how I look at the Evil Dead, I look at it like I look at the Godzilla franchise. There's different versions of Godzilla. There's different Godzilla films. And, you know, the Ash, I think the Evil Dead's going to go down the same route where you're going to have different versions of the Evil Dead. Some with Ash in, some without him in. But it's all still the Evil Dead in some way, shape or form.
I think they should just leave him out of it, because you know that they're going to end up killing him and everybody's going to be pissed.
You're right. You're right.
Dude, I'm going to be pissed if they do that shit.
Hey, Tony said the thing that nobody wanted to hear, but he's right. They would do that.
I'm not over Dante and Clerks 3 still, so fucking
It's like,
right?
Dude,
Why?
that was the weirdest fucking movie, dude. Like, I did not expect that at all. It
Killed
was
me,
good,
bro.
but not the other two films at all.
Why did they do that?
That killed
I
me,
don't
bro.
know.
That was
Don't know.
unnecessary, bro. I do
It's
not
like-
watch Clerks movies to cry on my goddamn couch.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Jesus.
It's like the Indiana Jones film that came out. Everyone expected
see
him.
it.
Well, everybody. Well, I don't know if you want us to spoil it or not, but
I don't
I'm
care.
good. Right. Well, anyway, for anyone that watches and you haven't seen it, I'm so sorry, but I have to mention this. I'm a massive Indiana Jones fan as well as Evil Dead fan, and when I heard they were bringing it back, because of his age, I knew he wasn't as limber as he could be. And I knew we wouldn't be able to do all the stunts or anything, but I just thought they were faithful to the character and that it was just a fairly decent movie. But my biggest fear is that they would kill him off. Well, here's the spoiler. He does not die. He does not get killed off. Indiana Jones is still much alive.
Yeah.
But what pissed me off is that we're seeing him in all the films and they basically turned him into a pensioner. They played up to the camera too much that he was older and he couldn't do the things and he'd lost his confidence and that he was this frail old man. Well, I don't want to remember my last film if Indiana Jones of him being half the man that he was in the originals. So I think they should have just left well alone and left it to the fourth one, which everyone, had a mixed bag. People didn't like. I actually liked the fourth one. I thought, thought for what they did.
Was terrible, man. Oh my god.
Wasn't that the Crystal Skulls?
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, what the fuck was aliens doing in an Indiana Jones movie?
Well, all I'm gonna say is if you do get round to see this piece of shit, The Dial of Destiny, you will look at the fourth one and think it's a fucking masterpiece. And not because of the story, not because of the story, how they changed Indiana Jones.
I don't understand why he's older anyway. Didn't he drink from the cup of Christ that's like supposed to keep him young?
Yeah, right. Wasn't he Ponce de Leon, man? He fucking the fountain.
Well, those de-aging effects are really expensive.
They look good though in the beginning when they showed him.
I just think it's not to do with the story. It's not for me. It's what
they emasculated Jones.
Yeah, they made him a bitch.
That's what I mean. It's
right.
The Indiana Jones.
You've seen the South Park episode where they talk about how they raped Indiana Jones, right? There's an entire South Park episode. The whole running gag of the episode is that they raped Indiana Jones,
Well, I feel all I'm gonna say when I watched this film, I felt like I was there watching the rape live. It was fucking disgusting. It really was.
That's what Stan from South Park
and it's like what they did to that character and how it's the worst. They should have left well alone. And for me, it's kind of tainted the Indiana Jones franchise for me, then I think it's worse than killing them off what they did. Like that's why I brought this up.
Right, you were worried they'd kill him off, and instead they made him a bitch.
Yeah, that's the point I wanted to make. I'd rather them if they either keep the character true to what we remember and keep them, as we remember and made them badasses, or just kill them off. That's what I want.
Baby,
like,
new age.
You remember the scene in Indiana Jones where the dude's doing the thing with the swords and shit, and he just pulls out the gun and shoots him? Now he would watch that dude bang his wife.
Yeah.
I've seen one review where it was called Indiana Jones and the Dial of Demasculization.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, man.
So this has been the entertainment headquarters. This has been Into the Darkness. And this has been a discussion on Evil Dead. And I've had an absolute blast. Yous are all fucking welcome back on the channel. This has been so much fun. But I'm going to go around the group and ask yous what is coming up next with yous lot. So Anthony Jordan, what's coming up next with you and your channel?
Well, on this phone right here, which is what I use to do all my recording, I have the review and all the footage I'm going to use of my Mothra versus Godzilla review on here. I just need to upload, edit it all together, and make my thumbnail. And next week I'm jumping into my Gundam Seed 20 years later, since I can actually start watching it 20 years to the date of the first time I watched it. And other than that, that's going to be the bulk of my year, jumping from Gundam and Godzilla till I gear up for Montober this October.
Oh, brilliant. So, Mr. Tony the Dead, what you got coming on your channel?
Well, Today I just uploaded a review of Night Swim, so that's up. I'm starting to get
bullshit. That's all I'll say. Bullshit.
No, it's
That
true. I have it up
film-
there.
It's
Did you do that?
absolute-
Favorite movie of the year.
I have never been fucking as bored in my entire life. I could have had sex with a midget in the cinema, which would have been more entertaining than watching that
Oh,
film.
wow.
I'd actually
would
pay to
watch
see that.
So when you mentioned that movie, Kevin's face got redder than his hair.
Well, I loved it. No, I'm just kidding.
Is it a pile of shit? I haven't seen it. Is it
It's you don't have to
Just
see
watch the
it, put it
review.
that way.
Give some
shit?
likes.
Yeah, I'll watch a review. That sounds good.
I like what the idea of it and the story, but like
Failure.
it's one of those like you don't have to really see it, you know.
I'll give you
I
my
got it-
review.
I got it for a review. I got it sent over to me from Universal, so I
Oh,
reviewed it.
Right on.
But like I don't sugarcoat, I'm not mean, but like if I don't like it, I'm gonna say it. And
There you
some
go.
companies don't like that.
yeah,
But,
too bad.
Yeah, right.
Honest
Yeah,
reviews.
that's right. That's right.
So yeah, I'm
At the
getting
end-
back
at the-
into reviews now. So I think
Well,
my
at the
next
end of the
one's gonna
day,
I think I'm gonna review this one.
Oh,
I've never
cool.
seen it.
Oh, is that the one with the lions?
Yeah,
Oh, sweet. Yeah, that's cool. That's old.
cool.
Cool.
I never saw it before, but I heard it's like
It's like the
Very
doc.
brutal.
Like there's a doc about some lions. That,
yeah.
not out of
Yeah.
Africa. It's called Roar. But
I
it
thought
was, they
about
were-
doing like old school reviews, like old school movies that fell through the cracks. That'd be cool, man. Maybe one of y'all could hang out with me for some of them.
And then
Yeah.
I
Oh,
also am
definitely.
going to start my series with Is It Still Awesome? Like looking back at movies I used to love as a kid and
Yeah.
watching it nowadays and see if it still has the same feeling.
Mm.
One example is Little Monsters. I don't feel the
Oh,
same way
yes.
nowadays.
Yeah, like me and Anubis, I started a show on my channel called the Retro Classic Movie Show, where it can be anything up to the early 2000s, and so far we've done First Blood, Rambo, and we did Conan the Barbarian. And
Great movies.
so the next one's going to be Predator, because I put up a poll on it was actually Anubis's idea to put a poll up to see what people would want what they do, and that won hands down.
Predator's
But
one of my
obviously,
favorites.
after Predator, though, me and Anubis can both have a discussion and think of a film and maybe get you guys on to join with and do a retro and do a retro classic review with what all a part of that. That will be a lot of fun. But Crypt, what's coming up with you?
I am actually nearing episode number 300 of Metalomania is coming up. It'll be happening in a little over a month from now. But in the episodes leading up to that, I'm very excited because next week we're airing the interview with Atrophy, and then right after that we're airing our interview.
Asylum.
Dude, Atrophy, the new Atrophy is badass. You guys pick it up; it's fantastic, man. They're so I love it. And I was able to lock in an interview, which your guys are going to love, man. It's a funny fucking interview. I'll be airing that this week. And then right after that, I have motherfucking X-Order coming on to talk about the new X-Order album with me. And then right after that, I got motherfucking Atheist coming on, man, to talk about how they are got new stuff in the pipeline, man. So
Fuck yeah, dude.
big interviews that I'm excited about to air for you guys.
Nice.
Oh, that sounds fucking amazing. But
Sounds better than fucking a midget.
I don't know. I do want to see that.
well, don't knock it till you haven't tried it.
Yeah, that's right.
But going
Here
forward,
you can rest your nuts on their forehead for a break. It's nice.
I didn't say I wouldn't do it. I just said it would sounds better than one.
Mr. Anubis, hello,
What's up? There
Neko.
she is. Hello.
The
Midget.
midget. The queen of the Metal Tavern Radio has arrived.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been letting you guys chill. I've been kind of quiet over there.
We got a lot planned too, though. I got some
Yeah,
trailer
you know what I'm
reactions
doing?
got to do.
Taxes. That's what's happening today.
Still?
Yeah, I love it.
I haven't done them yet.
Yeah, so we got some trailer reactions to do before the week's out. I want to do some for Joker 2, Under Paris, In a Violent Nature, Bloodline Killing Arcadian. And then I got an unboxing because Mr. Tony the Dead sent us something. I haven't looked at it yet, so I'm going to do that online.
Hopefully it's
And
not
then
broken.
also, I want to show Neko a movie called Velvet Goldmine, which I really like, but she's never seen it, so I might do a review with her with that.
Right.
And tomorrow, if you're into sports, Mr. Pote and I are doing an NFL draft breakdown for the 2024 NFL draft. So we'll be talking a couple hours about what the teams are going to be doing draft wise, what my Broncos and their sucky asses are doing, and so on. So I know Crypt's a big Cowboy fan, so I wonder what he's all going to be wondering about in his time off waiting for the draft. So
Yeah, let's do it.
got some stuff in the pipeline, man.
Yeah, I'll be watching it as you do it, sir.
Well, coming up on the entertainment headquarters, I have literally just finished, and it's on the channel now, my reaction to Joker Folie de Deux, which is the sequel to Joker. That's on the channel now. I plan on doing a few more reviews. I have The First Omen review, which will be on the channel sometime tomorrow. And me and DJ Anubis eventually in the future will be doing our Predator Retro Classic Movie Show segment. And heading into me...
Hey, Kevin, real quick. Neko just says she wants in on that Predator review.
Fuck yeah.
Well, I always said you're more than welcome on the channel. Get your ass there. You're more than welcome.
Get your ass there.
And
Get to the chopper.
Well, Neko might also want to be a part of this bad boy, because in May, which I'm trying to schedule for Friday the 11th of May, the Monsterverse...
We got to go out that night unless we do it earlier.
The Monsterverse retrospective review, where we will do a massive live stream, talking of all things legendary Monsterverse. So that's the things coming on the entertainment headquarters. But I've had an amazing blast talking all things Evil Dead with Anthony, Jordan, DJ Anubis, Mr. Tony the Dead, in the Crypt of Metalomania. But like I always say, from me to yous, keep on enjoying your movies, keep on enjoying all things entertainment, and I'll catch yous all at the next one.